accommodation. But we are here today to discuss just obviously a bit of a change in the dynamic given COVID and the impact for tourism, particularly as a sector. If we can go to the next slide, Sam. We're permanently closing. Not only are these a loss definitely to the tourism industry to try and bring people back when we don't have products, but also particularly for those vulnerable communities where some of these operators have been going for many years. Thanks. Now, the reason why I just raised international airline connectivity is because it will take this country at least 2 to 5 years before we ever go back to the type of connectivity we've had as a country previously before lockdown. So again, it's going to be a very long burn for us as a country to regain the international visitor arrivals we've seen in the past. Air traffic control
completed significant cost reductions in the business. That's right across the business. So that's major cost reductions in our expense lines, reductions pretty much across our business in terms of payroll, anything up to a 20% reduction, and the board have also taken a reduction in their director fees. We applied for the runway. Fortunately, in our 10-year asset management plan, we have a very quiet. We've just spent close to $1 million finishing in March of this year on some apron works and some pumps, some other bits and pieces, but we have a very... It's been important as we've worked through really the devastation of the past 3 or 4 weeks to make sure that we still keep our eye on the longer term for the group and our focus over the next 12 months. I won't... We have, as I say, completed a very detailed 15-month forecast through to 30 June next year. That will form, of course, now part of the year one of the SOI. So look, we have a presentation. The RAO board and myself have a presentation to all shareholding councils in May, and we by that from our tenants. But we're early days, as we know, into the next sort of 3 to 6 months as businesses work through how they're going to operate and survive during this process. We've obviously suspended the terminal upgrade work, and I'll talk to that a bit further on, which of course was a major piece of work, approximately $15 million of proposed work. The hotel, nonetheless, we have received and we are receiving payment for the use of the hotel by the government, but that ends really this week, and from then on difficult times ahead, and we'll talk about that. And obviously our people, all my team are working remotely. That's working very...
I've said to my board colleagues, and you'll be aware, I'm sure, that that everyone that sits around the LAS board, with the exception of me, is a chief executive of one of the member councils. I've said to my...
There's going to be significant challenges for councils, particularly in the 2021 sort of financial year. I'm part of the working group that DIA are running, looking at doing a lot of modelling on council financial performance for the remainder of this year and next year, and that's feeding into a lot of the other government sort of work streams, such as the recovery sort of work stream this financial year. So to date, we've never had a breach of any of the financial covenants, but you know, if revenue falls significantly for councils with a large amount of debt to start with, then they could well breach that net debt to revenue covenant. So that's something.
I guess. But a lot of the things that are done rely on the, I suppose, the goodwill of councils and releasing resources from their business to work on LAS stuff. And I can foresee that councils are actually going to be pretty hard pressed with their own staffing resources, dealing with, extra things that have come out of the woodwork to do with COVID-19. And so what is
that as well. And one of the earliest things that we did well before lockdown was when we could see this thing coming, was to reach out to councils to ask them to think about whether in the context of any redeployment of assets and people that they were doing, whether there were going to be some people that might in fact be freed up to be able to work on some of our projects to make them go faster. And
health issues. We are aware of where our staff are, what they're doing, and with us likely moving to level 3 next week, we've gone out to all managers to advise us of where exactly their staff are going to be working, whether they will be continuing to work from home, whether we will have some, like our parks operators, working back out in the community. And from a health and safety perspective, we're working up some really good protocols around how to keep them all safe. So I hope